Hello and welcome to the Lillian McMorris Show. I am Ken Young, your guest host. And Lillian, we are sending out our love and our greatest support to you. Can't wait for you to get back. Well, I have an exciting show today for you. This young lady that is our guest today is doing a lot of things, a lot of great things in the city. She's helping a lot of people. And so I want to introduce to you Miss Kennedy Cobbin Richardson. Did I get it right?
That's right.
I got them all right?
Very good. Yes.
Awesome. Well, now tell me now, you've been in Las Vegas how long now?
5 years.
5 years.
Correct.
And you are from?
Youngstown, Ohio originally, but I lived in LA for 15 years, and so I've been here 5 years ago.
Okay, well, I'm going to call you a California Ohioan.
Okay.
We'll make up a word for today.
That works.
So she is doing some great things in the city as it relates to nonprofit, and then she's helping with individuals that find themselves in need of job skills training. So let's just jump in. So tell us, let's start with your nonprofit.
Okay. So I have a nonprofit called HERSHEY, which is the two feminine pronouns, not the chocolate bar, but HERSHE, and it's for girls in foster care.
Okay, and so tell us about how did that get started, and what are you doing in this?
Wow. So I started it about 15 years ago in Los Angeles.
But you're only 16.
I know, exactly. I was a toddler, and I said, I need to help girls in foster care. But when I was in college, my college roommate was a former foster youth, and she was brilliant and beautiful, and you're really ready to take on the world. But unfortunately, all of us need support, and foster youth don't have the support that they need in order to succeed. And so she did not succeed, even though she really had all the makings of being someone really great. And so when I was teaching, I saw more young girls like her who had everything really to make it, but did not have the support system necessary to move through. So I stopped teaching, and I started HERSHEY to really be that lady in the community to help those who didn't have a mom or aunts or a grandma, to really support them. And so it's been a great ride. It's what I think that I've been put here to do. While I do a lot of other things, I think this was my assignment.
Okay. Now, the name HERSHEY, is there something significant of how that came about?
No, I dreamt the name, and it's just all about girls. I'm probably the girliest person most people know, so it's just about girls, and there's nothing more feminine than her and she.
Awesome. Now, what age groups are you working with?
We like to get them in around 12 or 13, and we work with them really for a lifetime. Now that we've been doing it 15 years, I have 26, 27-year-old girls, who are technically still in the program. And it's mainly because we're sort of a lifestyle organization. So once you're in, it's kind of HERSHEY for life. But the goal is that you survive that transition from foster care into adulthood. And within 12 months of emancipation, which means 12 months after someone exits the foster care system, they're 7 times more likely to be homeless, 6 times to be incarcerated, half are sexually abused. And so they really degrade very fast, right after they emancipate. And it's a downward spiral within 1 year. And so the whole goal of the preparation is to make sure when they emancipate that they can actually succeed and, make it past that transition phase.
Now, are there any just standout moments when you look at, this one young lady that we weren't really sure if she was going to make the program? When you look at her now, is that just one standout moment that always just makes you beam?
I have many. There are some that I remember, not quite that what you just said, but the fact that I remember her at 12 years old, and she came in very shy, but at that moment I knew she was amazing. And, right now she's in college, she's a dancer. She didn't know she could dance, and there's a lot of performing arts that happens in HERSHEY. And she is a Delta now, and so she is becoming all that I saw at 12 years old. And of course, yes, there are the stories, those who, had something. That's why you become a HERSHEY girl. There's something in you that we see that just needs to be crafted and supported. But sometimes you can want something more for someone than they want for themselves.
Right.
And but sometimes that works out really well. And there was a girl who had 3.8 GPA, and she went off to college. She did not survive her first year, and I remember boo-hooing and could barely deal with the fact that she was maybe not going to reach her potential. But God showed me how, one fall doesn't mean that you're out. and she actually moved to Vegas, and she is about to be in one of the trades, the apprenticeship trades.
Awesome. Awesome.
And she's doing really, really well. So I'm proud of her. So I've seen the whole gamut, but they're like your children. So you're happy for, the small wins and the big wins.
Right. Now, do they get the opportunity, or do you afford them the opportunity to come back and talk to some of the younger participants in the program?
Definitely, because it's such a sisterhood, they absolutely want to come back and talk to them about what Hershey meant to them, and how they can take advantage of the program, to the fullest. And so they see new Hershey girls as little sisters.
Okay. Now, there's a young lady that's viewing the program right now that needs your information and needs your guidance. How do we reach you as it relates to that?
So girls are referred by a DFS social worker, and it can be a teacher or somebody in the community, but the easiest way is on the website. So you go to hershey.vegas, HERSHE.vegas, and there's a click that you can refer.
Okay. Now, that's just one aspect of Kennedy and
Correct.
what Kennedy does. Now, I hear you every morning about 7:30
Right.
when you're blessing people with knowledge about their pending future. So
Correct.
tell us about that function.
So I'm the Director of Business Engagement at Workforce Connections, and our goal is to connect employers to a ready workforce. And what that means is that part of my job is to bring employers to the system, the workforce development system, and help really anybody who needs a job. And so in the morning, I am advertising a job because a lot of times people just don't know what's out there, what's available. So we're talking about a job of the day, and we've seen people cry in the office. I think that getting a job is the last thing you need in order to really become self-sufficient. So once you get your head together, get your affairs in order, you have a place to live, have a car, got insurance, and then you get that job, you're really, the sky's the limit at that point.
Okay. Say transplants from other cities, people that are transitioning like from the military, those that have had mandatory timeout, as I call it. How do you work with those individuals?
Well, all of those people that you named really have different challenges. And so we have subject matter experts who are ready to deal with them. Some are agency and some are just people. So for example, from a veteran standpoint, getting them to understand the skills that they had in the military and how to transfer and communicate those transferable skills to an employer. Because if that person's not a vet, they have no idea, what that job meant. But likely, and veterans are usually known as really model employees because they know how to be on time. They, they follow the rules, and honor and integrity are really important. But their ability to transfer their skills into a civilian job is difficult. So working with that population, people in reentry. Right now, I'm working with Assemblyman Tyrone Thompson on trying to get Nevada to ban the box. It is unfair for people to continue to have to pay for something they did after they get out. Once you get out, you have paid your debt to society, and I think it's actually a civil rights law. There is many states across the country who have decided to ban the box. With that being said, the idea is to make sure that they're not discriminated against because they have a history. And if that doesn't, and sometimes it's not successful, and so I'm really big on entrepreneurship for those who are re-entering society, because a lot of times they do have the skills and the knowledge in order to really survive and make a really great living at what they're good at. So between vets and reentry, and there's foster youth and people who have disabilities, who also need a second chance, allowing employers to see that just because I'm in a wheelchair doesn't mean, that I can't help you run your company.
Right.
So our goal is to take those unique challenges that people have, figure out what's the quickest path to getting them in front of the employer, and really selling themselves at that point.
So literally, everybody has an opportunity. There is really no real excuse for not to become employable, with the service that you guys offer.
Correct, and not in Vegas. We really have bounced back pretty well from the recession. The hospitality industry, we're going to have a big hiring event on March 3rd. It's about 30 employers who serve hospitality, tourism, and gaming, and we will be adding 54,500 jobs just this year.
Wow.
In hospitality. So, and even though people want to, we do want to diversify, but this is our bread and butter. So it's still a great industry to be a part of. And so I believe at this point that if you want a job, you can get one here.
Right, that's amazing. When we look around at the opportunities that are afforded here in Las Vegas, still one of the greatest places to be. So Kennedy is making it happen.
I love it here.
Yeah. So now you're working with foster youth. You're working with those that are trying to get into the workforce.
Correct.
Now you're also doing some other community work as it relates to your sisterhood, Ms. Orvaz. I know so many things that she's doing around the city. She's another quiet storm, that she's out there doing some of those things.
I love it. This reminds me of Ohio and LA all in one. So this is a place that I really love to invest my time, energy, passion into.
Mm-hmm. Now, so what are you saying to the individual that I'm at that change of life? I want to get involved in the community. I'm not sure if my skills are transferable, and I've retired. I want to do something new. How do you get them into the workflow?
So we have an AARP 50 plus back to work program, and we really deal with that. Most of those people really want to work part-time. They just want, something to do, nothing too hard. They've usually done that, right? They're retired. They've worked their stretch. But the thing is that we're trying to help those who are over 55 to really understand their worth, because after you're out of the workforce for a while, you start to not feel as good as you used to, and you're not as confident. And so once we get their confidence up, many of them, in fact, most of them are really successful.
And I understand that's a pretty challenging dynamic to deal with, with kids that are also looking to become, employed in retail. And then you have the experienced person, the person that has seen it, done it, in life, merging those two together.
Right. But, unfortunately, the older candidate has usually made a lot more money. And that's why they're discriminated against. So they'll actually hire the youth over the older adult because they believe the employer believes I can't afford them. If an employer can get over that hump, you'll really see how beneficial they can be to a company.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kennedy Cobbin Richardson, we are so lucky to have her here in Las Vegas and doing the things that she's doing. She is an absolute jewel and gift to this community. I've heard so many great things about how she has helped people to get into a working situation, and hearing also about what she's doing with the foster with that community. So it's great what you're doing. We're excited about you being here in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
And keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Ken Young, and we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the Lillian McMorris Show. I am your guest host today, Ken Young. Now, this gentleman that I'm about to introduce is one of my mentors. Met him back in the early 90s. And at that time, he was doing radio and he was doing some other community-based things, but his history preceded him on what some of the community things he was doing in another state. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Sherman Rutledge. Man, welcome, man. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here, Ken.
Welcome. We go back to the 90s, man.
1994.
I was only about 7 or 8, at that time. But
well, I'm gonna let that one slide. I'm not gonna respond to that one. You were a young man back then.
I was a little younger. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy here, looking at his resume, you can say this: he's either done it, he had the opportunity to turn it down, he has done so much, in his lifetime. What a legacy and what a rich history. I'm sitting next to this guy, and I'm just humbled to sit next to him and just get the opportunity to interview you, man. I already know you, so I want to reintroduce you to some of the things that you're doing. Now, one of the things that I've always liked is that you've worked with young men. That has always been an area for you that you say, I got to get to these young guys. So let's talk a little bit about, we could go for days about talking about the things that you've done.
Well, I'm, young men. I work with all ethnic groups of young men. I tend to work with them from 5th grade up, 5th to 12th grade. And it's really indicative of my childhood, because we didn't have mentors. We didn't have individuals that were guiding us. Even though we had the energy, we were all over the place. And to have the kind of, social, the physical, and the academic guidance for young men today, man, is just a very powerful tool. And I've been blessed, definitely blessed by God to be able to deliver systems. And that's basically what I've been doing for the last 40 years, is developing systems. So I have like manuals, so when it comes to my mentoring programs, they'd be like, Mr. Rutledge, we got to read this.
You mean I have to read? Yeah.
Like my American Young Gentlemen, which is a national mentoring program, it has 45 developmental strategies in it. So when they come to the first training session, they get a binder and it has 45, initiatives in it. And I say, if you go to these 45 initiatives, the things that will take you out of the real game of being what it is to be the best of being human, you will remove those obstacles in your life. And then you first of all, you got to cherish your family, religious, your ability to accept any challenges and exceed those challenges. I tell them, 1% of 1 billion of nothing. They're like, what you talking about, Mr. Rutledge? I'm pretty smart. Okay, 1% of 1 billion of nothing. That means the brain has a capacity to do phenomenal things that we haven't even begun to explore. And so I do a lot of brain science. All my trainings are based in brain science. And so if they question certain things, I'll go to a scientific, result and say,
right,
you can't deny this. If we can send spaceships all the way across the universe and talk back and forth, we definitely can teach y'all how to do math and algebra. My 5th graders, they do algebra. High school students, they do college work. Middle school students, they do high school work. And once they figure out that, wow, it ain't that hard. No, if you have the application system, you can do it. AutoCAD. When I was doing the STEM program every Saturday for 4 years,
right,
free of charge, I was teaching 5th graders, middle school and high school students how to use AutoCAD. Now, AutoCAD, of course, is a very powerful international engineering and construction software.
I was going to say, explain that, the CAD system to those that may not be aware.
They got it. I mean, the 5th graders were, in some instances, more in tune and intellectually driven than some high school students. It's just giving the student at that early age those very complicated systems that we say, they're too young for. I never bought into that.
Right. And I'm going to go back a little bit. You talked about you are a deliverer of systems. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that to be true whether you were working in television, whether you were working in radio or community service. You always had a very systematic approach. Everything was built upon concepts. And I see that you're also doing that as it relates to guiding our young people.
Right. I also guide youth, and I've been all around the country. And I also have another program called the 5 Critical Disciplines. I designed that when I was working for Mr. Bill Murphy at Nevada Business Services when he hired me as his youth program director. And one of the things I identified very fast was that, some of the social workers or case managers didn't understand the real depth of those young men and young women they were serving. So I developed the 5 Critical Disciplines, and now it's a national program. I train Job Corps and with high executives and very powerful nonprofit agencies around the country. I don't broadcast that. That's just something on the surface that I do and enjoy doing, because it is a human service training system unlike any other. If you're serving the most neediest of your community, you don't have the option to fail. And so in one of those training systems, I use a radar screen. That's the last session, and it combines all 5. If you are a radar technician for any airport, you have no options to fail. It doesn't exist. And so
That's huge, man. That's a huge statement that you don't have an option to fail.
you don't.
How do you get that? How do you get people to see that and understand that concept? You have no option to fail.
Well, the 5 critical disciplines is based on guidance, compassion, intelligence, vision, and excellence. Those are the 5 principles. And each of those principles are broken down into 1 hour. And I use what I call a proven scientific approach, because I use a system that I had to build for myself as a retired firefighter. I got electrocuted by 193,000 volts at a very early age. And so I had to relearn how to read, how to write. Doctor said, you will not do this, you will not do that. You know, forget martial arts, forget all that stuff. You're done. And I'm like, really? I got 2 sons I got to raise, number 1. And number 2, there's another higher power above the medical field that has not told me I'm done. And so it took a while. I went to rehab and everything. So going through rehab, and meeting a lot of individuals in rehab centers that were quadriplegics, they were, injured for life, and they felt that they would never ever be able to walk or, have the faculties that we have today. And so looking at them, I was able to gain the strength and the power through the divine intervention to be able to make things happen like the 5 critical disciplines. I have videos of people who went through the training, and I never know how that's going to come out, but they've come back and said, Mr. Rutledge, wow, if I had this when I first started this profession. I said, yeah, I mean, there's a revitalization, there's a recommitment that we all have to go through over a period of time. If you're doing the same thing every day for over a period of years, you're going to get burned out, some sooner than others. And so you need to find out that if you are you're a human service professional and you're serving those most in need, you're less than 1% of the overall population. So it's not by chance you're in this profession. You're in here because someone decided you need to be here for someone else. And so they need to be reminded of that. And so the 5 critical disciplines that I developed brings that back to them.
Okay.
And I expect them to leave happy, smiling. They're like, yes, I am gifted in this profession because I can change a person's life. And very few of us have that position.
Okay. As it relates to diversity, now, actually, you've worked in television, you've worked in radio, you've been a part of community organizations like the 100 Black Men. You're one of the founding members of that. You've done youth mentoring. You were instrumental in the 90s as working with our gang activity that was going on here in Las Vegas. I was a part of the gang unit at that time.
Right.
If you were to look back, what would you say would be probably your most rewarding work that you've done?
I'm not a surface guy, number 1. So a lot of events and activities that occurred, I kept it under the surface. I don't hear people say, oh, you did a great job. Well, yeah, I did, but it's not because I want to get, acknowledgement or recognition. I'm doing it because that's my position. I would probably say, trying to reduce some of the catastrophic gang activity when I first came to Las Vegas. When I first came to Las Vegas, and I lived in Oakland, I lived in LA, I've been to Chicago, been to Detroit, been to St. Louis, and I've seen some really, really bad inner city gang activities. But when I came to Vegas, and I saw, just like everybody had a gun, I saw teenagers with guns, man, this is back in '94. And of course the gang activity was very, very bad. And so I talked with the governor at that time. I had a private meeting with him. I said, look, I just want to help. We need to establish some committees, some commissions. We need to be able to put some money on the ground to do intervention, prevention. And that's how me and Belinda got together because she wanted to do prevention. I believe in prevention. They only had, I think, $30,000 for the whole state of Nevada. $30,000 for prevention. So me and Belinda, we championed that cause. And I think it went up to like $5 million. But that's because we got on the streets and we fought, going to Washington, D.C., lobbying for the best of what it is for us to serve our community. But the gang activity was very bad. They shot up a 7-Eleven on Washington and MLK. They shot it up so bad, they just bulldozed the whole corner down. And at that point, I went to Indian Springs prison. I met with all the OGs, as I was sharing with you earlier. And I said, look, we need you all to help. Gangs did not start to kill innocent kids and innocent bystanders. They started for other reasons.
Right.
And I need you all to help me through KCEP to cut spots and send messages out there to the young brothers and sisters who are involved in gangs to say, this is not what gangs are about. Never have been, never will be. And they did. And the gangs really stopped. So in the saving of lives, we did a lot through KCP though, because every hour there was some educational, some motivational stuff going on. It was relentless, and it was done intentionally. Education, we did the Black Student Conference. Over 1,000 students would come through Black History Month, UNLV, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
I mean, I ain't seen a city nowhere in America yet that get over 1,000 Black students at their facility at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to a conference. I ain't seen it. But Las Vegas had it. And don't tell me our kids don't want to learn. They want to learn.
Right. They just have to be motivated. They have to see the big picture.
And you were there, you did workshops,
Yes.
and, just the community was beautiful. They're like, they ain't about me, it's not about us, it's about them. And so, big support. The president of UNLV, he told me to fame, I want to help Mr. Rutledge. I think he gave us something like $35,000. He bought breakfast, he bought lunch.
Yeah. Like I said,
For 10
ladies
years.
and gentlemen, this man has done some phenomenal things, in this city. I say if you look at his resume, he's either done it or had the opportunity to turn it down. And most things he has not turned down as it relates to helping our community, especially young people. So, Sherman, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you. This is a good thing. Once again, my name is Ken Young. This is the Lillian McMorris Show. Lillian, I hope that you are pleased with this gentleman being on here today, and we can't wait for you to get back.
What?
We will see you next time.